Where is the wise man? Where is the scholar? Where is the philosopher of this age? Get down! Baltimore!
What are they getting?
Everything out of me. They gonna get a Super Bowl out of me. Believe that. Believe that.
All right, welcome on back to another edition of the Baltimore Beatdown podcast. It is Sunday night, September 25th. My name is Jake Luke, and I'm going to be running this one solo in here. I figure just going to take some comments in the YouTube section here, the Twitter section. Anyone that wants to hop in here and engage with me on this one, very happy to discuss it with you. Spenny was going to be on this one, but he was out at a dinner for the franchise that ran a little bit late. Wanted to get Cole involved as well, but he was not able to. So not going to be doing quite what we did last week, where the three of us hopped in and sort of it was a little bit of a therapy session last week. Let's just be very honest about that. It was definitely I don't think we've recorded technically since then. So yeah, just to address that was definitely, the emotions were running raw. I know for me, it was definitely one of those losses that brought out the the demons in me. I go to church every Sunday. You bring the demons out of me. That's what that loss was. And I don't know. I think sometimes it's good to be angry, good to express that anger and get it out. It felt therapeutic for me in the moment. And so yeah, that was last week. But as therapeutic as it was, whatever, it put the Ravens at 1-1, and that was not a good spot for them to be in at all. With the Bills and the Bengals going to be coming to town shortly, so they had a monumental test coming up here for this game, going up to New England to take on the Patriots up in Foxborough. I mean, that's always going to be a tough ask, in my opinion. And I think it should be in everyone's opinion, because as much as they are not the Patriots of old, this is not the Tom Brady, Bill Belichick outfit that we're used to seeing. It's always going to be a tough out, I think. And you got to give them credit for how quickly they have turned things around there. I will say that, especially with, just the fact that they had the Cam Newton year, and with COVID and everything, it felt like it could have been a situation where quite easily, they could have just thrown in the towel and Belichick could have retired, whatever could have happened. But no, they drafted Mac Jones. They have really made a go of this thing, making the playoffs last year. They are not off to as hot of a start this year, though. And watching the game, or, the condensed games that they played thus far against the Dolphins, who had a big win today over the Bills, who are looking very much for real. They looked rough. I don't think they look great against the Steelers, who I don't think are a great team either, but they got a W there. So they were 1-1 coming into this one, just like the Ravens. And I think a lot of Ravens fans were maybe expecting this to be a statement game, or I shouldn't say a lot, but I definitely had talked to some people who were like, they need to go out there and blow them out, and that's what they're going to do. And I thought, well, I respect your opinion, but I just don't think it's going to be that way. And that's maybe a little bit of helmet scouting on my part to say, it's the Patriots. It's always going to be a tough out, but it's an away game. It is the Patriots. It's going to be a tough out, in my opinion. And that is how this one wound up playing out. But yeah, this one was just a very, very eventful game, I would say. Just kind of a game where you could just sort of tell right away that it was going to be close. And it had the feeling of one that was going to be high octane. And that's definitely what wound up happening in this one, where you come out, I believe the Ravens went 3-and-out on the first drive. I'm going to see if I can get the box score pulled up here. And anyone listening, also feel free to throw some comments in there. We got a couple coming in. Way Weary, Lamar's him, Mark, great stash, and La MVP cooking. Yeah, Lamar MVP for sure. But yeah, it just had a feel of the game where, yeah, like the Ravens go out and go 3-and-out right away. It's like, what's going on here? The offense definitely got off to a little bit of a slow start, I would say. And the fact that the Patriots weren't able to get much going either, I think was a boon to them, and it gave them the ability to kind of go by their own tempo as opposed to starting to chase. And I think we saw that with their first scoring drive, 11 plays, 69 yards, nice, 6 minutes and 23 seconds off the clock. And it ended with the touchdown to Mark Andrews, the shovel pass, which you want to talk about Greg Roman being in his bag. Shout out to the great Twitter bot account. Sorry about that. Love autoplay videos on ESPN. It's great. But yeah, yeah, it ended with the shovel pass to Mark Andrews, which was really another example of Greg Roman kind of reaching into that vault a little bit. I know we joke about it and people kind of have their fun with Greg Roman, and they probably still aren't fans of him, but he's off to a really hot start this year. And I think that was yet another good showcase of what he's been doing this season, mixing things up a little bit. So you have the shovel pass to Andrews, putting the Ravens up 7-0 over the Pats. They shortly come back and kick a field goal. So it's 7-3. Ravens get the ball back from there, and it's like, oh, maybe they could, kind of start to pour the gas on here a little bit, go for another touchdown, but it doesn't work out. You get a couple, I don't know, 3 and outs mixed in, but they get stopped. Lamar threw an interception. I don't remember who to exactly. I think it was Josh Jones was the guy's name or something like that. And yeah, it was not a great start because, like I said, you had the touchdown. You had the touchdown there, but it felt like they were not moving the ball consistently. And then they had the turnover. Dietrich Wise was really looking good out there, rushing off the edge for New England. Judon was actually really quiet. I think he was actually credited for a sack on that opening play of the game where he pushed Lamar out of bounds behind the line. So I guess it technically was a sack, but Judon very quiet. Dietrich Wise kind of wreaking havoc there a little bit. And then the Patriots wind up scoring a touchdown, I believe, and they go up 10-7. I'm looking at my game thing here. And that was in the second quarter. And you're kind of starting to wonder, like, oh, man, is this going to be another one of those weeks? And, like, the Twitter is just kind of like, and I think I'm starting to, like, engage with game day Twitter a little bit differently here. I just think that it's just so reactionary sometimes. And today was definitely one of those days where, they get down by that 10 points and it's like people calling for jobs and, Mike McDonald this and John Harbaugh that and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, man, it was starting to get away from them, and people's, collective psyches were starting to get away from them. But then the Ravens respond right before the half with a 9-play, 75-yard drive for a touchdown, took another 5 minutes off the clock. That was the Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson kind of fading away. He just Kobe Bryant's one up there, and like Mark just posterizing Devin McCourty in the back of the end zone at the post, which I had a little fun on Twitter with that one, calling back to memory the Anquan Bolden posterizing McCourty, 10 years ago on the road to the Super Bowl. That was a nice feeling. So they go up 14-10. All of a sudden things are feeling better going to the half, but the Patriots are going to get the ball coming out of it. So interesting spot to be in, made even more interesting by the fact that the Pats got the ball back. Let me see if I can find it here. I think less than a minute to go. And the Ravens defense just gave up another couple big plays, and then they just managed things kind of strangely when they were getting close to the midfield line there. And they didn't play the ball to the sidelines at all. They played this like weird prevent defense that didn't rush anybody. And I forget exactly who it was. I think it was, Kendrick Bourne gets the ball and he runs out of bounds at the 32 or so with literally 1 second left on the clock. Nick Folk drills the kick, and you go into the locker room 14-13 as opposed to 14-10. And that can be all the difference in the world in a game like this. And so thankfully it didn't wind up being that, but just more like situational issues with this defense a little bit that I think had people concerned, which I totally get. There are still some issues to sort through even after this game. And that's one of them. It's just situational awareness, playing to the sticks, playing to the sideline when you need to be doing that. That was just kind of a rough showing in that particular sequence. But yeah, Patriots, like I said, they get the ball at the half. They drive right down the field, 7 plays, 75 yards, 2-minute drive or thereabouts. And let me see what the big play was here. It was kind of Devontae Parker starting to really show up on this drive. He had a 36-yard catch and then a 25-yarder, I believe. He looked really good in this game. He was a guy that I thought the Ravens should maybe have shown some interest in, wide receiver wise. And obviously they didn't. He winds up in New England, and he has what the broadcast was calling his breakout game today. Definitely looked that way. And he, like I said, he was a big part of what they started to do in that second quarter. Brandon Stevens, I thought he had a better game than it might have looked, but he was getting picked on a little bit by him. And eventually Parker would kind of get taken away, but he takes them down. They score a touchdown from there to go up 20-14. And this is another one of those moments where it's like you're down 6 on the road to open the second half here. How are you going to respond to this? I mean, the defense was looking as bad, or not as bad, but definitely looking not very good in comparison, in kind of a comparison to last week. And it's like, oh man, like it just like, and I know these are just sort of the peaks and valleys of watching a game like this, but it just felt like it might have been getting away from them again. But how does this Ravens offense respond? They score a touchdown on their next drive, 7 plays, 75 yards. And it was, some short passes. And this was kind of where the running game started to get going, particularly with Justice Hill, because you got his 34-yard run here on this drive, which is the one where Pat Ricard kind of comes in motion and he just plants Judon on his ass, and a great block. Nice blocking by Andrews on that play as well, I think. And he sprung free for, like I said, that 34-yard gain. Very nice. And then you get down into the red zone, and that was the Josh Oliver touchdown. Actually, his first touchdown reception in purple, I believe. So good for Josh Oliver finally getting in the paint there. And it's good to see that too, I think, because they're probably not going to be keeping all these tight ends by the time Kohler is ready to come back, which is, hopefully going to be as soon as possible. But maybe they're showcasing Oliver for a trade is kind of some of the theories that the boys and I have been bandying about. So good to see him be on the receiving end of a touchdown there. He also had a catch in this game too, I think. So he scored that touchdown. That gets the Ravens to 21-20. And that was with, a decent amount of time left to go in the third quarter still, I think. But it kind of lent credence to the idea that this game is about to be a shootout. Like, what's going to happen here? Patriots punt on the next drive. Ravens take the ball again and they go score. And this was the Lamar run up the middle for 38 yards. And I think he might have had a house call here, but it was McCourty who was kind of the last bastion there to stop him a little bit. But that got them, pretty far down there. And then ultimately this is the one where Duvernay makes the awesome catch in the back of the end zone. I think we had a comment there about Duve. Let's see. Duvernay has been absolutely wild from JR. Wondering where he was the first 2 years. Yeah, I think it's just like guys got to develop sometimes, and he was a third-round pick, and definitely a developmental third-round pick as a wide receiver. He was kind of like at Texas, just sort of this bowling ball of energy and physicality and speed, obviously, but I don't think he was necessarily that refined receiver that we're seeing now. And, sometimes it does take a couple years for guys. Sometimes you gamble on a guy like a Miles Boykin thinking that he's going to put it all together, and he just doesn't. And other times it does work out like this. And I can understand the skepticism because it hasn't worked out for the Ravens more often than not with this position. But maybe this is an example of a guy they take in the mid rounds who they like the potential of, and it's starting to develop. And man, he does look like a complete wide receiver. Like, that was an awesome route that he ran. And really an even better catch. Lamar put the ball right where it needed to be. But it was going to be a tough one no matter what. And he gets both feet down there, very, very close to not doing that. And that puts the Ravens up to 28-20. And so this is where you kind of start to, as a fan, at least I did, get a little bit nervous about, oh boy, like, is this where the defensive collapse starts to happen a little bit? It didn't feel entirely like that Miami game, because that Miami game just felt like so long. It just felt like the defense was going to be ripe for having issues late on in the game. And like, obviously it wound up being a lot more than that. That's definitely a simplification of what happened, but this felt like it was a little bit of a quicker game. They weren't as gassed as usual, but they were giving up those chunk plays in the first half. So it was kind of concerning. And that's when, just kind of out of nowhere, like, very jarring. Mac Jones just throws a pick to Josh Bynes, throwing to his left, who perfectly read the play going to Devontae Parker. So a nice job keying in on that. And I think that was after, because they had scored the touchdown on one of their previous drives. Patrick Queen just stone dead dropped an interception at the goal line that would have been probably a pick six. So that was really, really a point of worry for this defense, in my opinion. And they showed up big with the Bynes pick. Ravens take the ball from there. They score a field goal on the ensuing drive. They didn't do a ton with it, but they get Tucker in range. He gets to a 56-yard field goal. I mean, the guy is just a fucking machine. I love Justin Tucker to death. I still for some reason, I have confidence issues with kickers, and I'm always kind of wondering if the other shoe is going to drop with him on some of these longer kicks, and if they're getting kind of cute. I was kind of thinking maybe just send Stout out there, but nope, they send Justin out there. He just nails the 56-yarder. 31-20 is your score from there. And then, this is where the proverbial collapse starts to happen, if it's going to happen, where Patriots score a touchdown on the next drive. And that I believe it opens the fourth quarter. They drive all the way down. About 12 minutes into the game, you get a Mac Jones. I think it was a passing touchdown for Mac Jones. And then you had the weird sort of almost 2-point conversion thing where Ramondre Stevenson pitched him the ball backwards, Mac Jones, and he kind of scampers into the end zone. But that wound up being whistled down for Ramondre Stevenson. So 31-26 from there. The Ravens, what did they do in the next drive? I'm just taking a look here. 31-26. Sorry, this is great radio. Just reading the thing here. And this was the kind of the sequence where it's like, oh God, here we go. Because Lamar is dancing around. He's dancing around on the first play of the next drive, sets his feet, hits Bateman, who has done nothing all day. He hits Bateman for a long pass. And then the ball gets ripped out and the Patriots pick it up. And it's kind of like, if you're a Ravens fan, you're like, wait a minute, was that actually a catch? I'm comfortable with saying that it was, just because it felt like, it just feels like we've kind of muddied the waters with what is a catch, what is not. I think they figured it out a little bit compared to where they were 5 years ago, but I don't know. It definitely, it wrought of the moment of oh God, this is where it's going to finally really happen to them, because Patriots take over with about 12 minutes left to go, only down by 5. And you're like, yep, here we go. But no, this was, it could have been that, because the Patriots get down into the red zone and Mac Jones is, I don't know what he was looking at or thinking, but he kind of just lofted. He did a Kobe Bryant one of his own where he's lofted one up to Devontae Parker, but Marlon picks it off in the corner of the end zone. And I really liked his reaction. He kind of ran out, and started yelling at the fans, I think, a little bit. He was screaming, super fired up. So for the people who kind of think of Marlon as kind of, he's got some clown tendencies a little bit, I get it. I play into that personally, but it's cool to see him show that passion, I think. So that's yet another turnover for this defense, coming up clutch when they needed to. And it kind of started to feel like maybe they're slaying the dragon here a little bit. The dragon being the idea of closing out a game late on and having to make a play as a defense, because they weren't getting stops. So you got to make plays. And so they had already done that a couple times. You get that pick in the end zone. Like I said, Ravens offense takes over. And I had tweeted, you probably need multiple touchdowns here to feel confident that you can close this thing out, which sucks. But, they didn't get that. They get a decent enough drive, non-scoring drive. They get to about midfield and, they punt it away. So it's still 31-26. Patriots take over with about 6 minutes to go. And it's this is still very much a game, but at least we're probably not looking at that type of collapse. At least the Ravens offense might still get a chance at the end of this one if they score. But this was kind of your mojo moment. Shout out to Mike McCarthy, where Mac hits Nelson Aguilar, and he's running in the open field. And it's oh, Jesus, they're giving up this big play here. This is, going to be on the highlight reels, just like Tua had plenty of those last week. But that is when the homie Kyle Hamilton comes up big, runs behind Aguilar, does the patented just kind of fruit punch and just pops it out. I don't know how Marcus Peters recovers his recovers this ball along the sideline, but just falls on it somehow. And that is when the Ravens take over. They go down and score a touchdown with the Lamar Jackson quarterback power kind of running to the right. It was a 9-yard run, 37-26 with about 2 minutes to play. Tucker, weirdly, speaking of Justin Tucker, he had the loudest extra point miss of all time. It wasn't just a doink. It was like a gunshot off the left upright there. So shout out to JT for getting his missed extra point out of the way in a non-important spot. But yeah, that about did it. And then shout out to Marcus Peters coming up big again, because they start to drive. They make, I think, a one big play through the air, maybe 2 big plays. And, the game is more or less in hand. But, Mac Jones, he's getting sacked and he just hawks one up. And Marcus Peters just kind of, he runs under it and grabs himself an interception. His first since 2020. Obviously, it's great to see him back and turning the ball over twice in this game, obviously. So very big for him. And it was on that play, actually, that Mac Jones hurt his leg. It looked like pretty badly. Like he was like screaming in pain, getting carried off the field. He had to like hobble off and everything. And it just looked like a really ugly scene. I was thinking like ACL or something like that. Turns out it's going to be like a high ankle sprain. So I'm not going to Mac Jones, not my favorite player for a couple, different reasons, but I'm not going to like brag on him injury wise. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was going to be a lot worse than a high ankle sprain. So he still has a chance to get back and play this season. But it sounds like it's probably going to be Hoyer for the Patriots for the next couple weeks at least. So that's interesting. But yeah, that is what closed it out. Ravens get a massive 37-26 victory on the road at New England. This was a game, like I said, it was ripe for just that, another letdown. But no, it was a total gut check win. And I think you got to give a credit to these players. Apparently they had like a players only meeting, which I can go back and forth on the effectiveness of those. But when you win, it's a big thing. So good for them for recognizing the issue and going out there and fixing it. And good for Kyle Hamilton for one, saying I need to be better and I'm going to be better. And he makes that big play near the end, obviously, to kind of, essentially clinch this thing. And major shout outs, if we're doing pats on the ass, like we have to talk about Lamar Jackson, who I haven't really touched on the brilliance of him in this game quite yet. It's just kind of feeling routine to me at this point. But my God, man, like this team goes as he goes right now. It is unfreaking believable what he is doing. 5 touchdowns. It's a Jackson 5. And it's just awesome. I tweeted that he's the MVP right now. And like some people are saying a couple different things like, oh, Hurts too. Allen. I get all that. Some people are saying, oh, it's only week 3. I get it. But this team has issues on defense right now, and they are not perfect along the offensive line. You had, Patrick McCary go out of the game hurt. It sounds like he's going to be okay, but they put in Daniel Fa'alele, as Daryl Moose Johnson would say there, who's a 4th round pick, and you're technically, I guess, 4th string tackle at this point. It's just crazy what they're dealing with injury wise. I mean, you had him getting in there. You had Justin Houston leave the game. I mean, there was just injuries left and right in this game. Still sounds like nothing too serious for anyone, thankfully. But yeah, you get Fa'alele out there at left tackle, who had a couple rough sequences to open things up. They started to help him a little bit. I think they started to send some chips and set him up to succeed. Lamar said he dominated like he did in college, which was awesome to see him, catch some props there. I mean, very, very good for Fa'alele to get in there as a 4th round pick and do what he did in just his 3rd game in his career. He hadn't really seen any action. They, brought him in as I think that 6th lineman sometime on certain occasions last week. So getting him out there and playing well was big. I mean, they do need tackle depth. I mean, this Stanley situation is it's still very weird. I think he's going to come back sooner rather than later, but it's tough. And so to know that he could go out there and do what he did was nice. I mean, you still have David Sharp in the mix too, if you want to, get him in. I know some people like what he does and they like his game and what he brings to the table. So that's great. But yeah, man, just a really overall a massive win, and it's all because of Lamar Jackson right now. And you can give credit to Greg Roman too, I think, and this coaching staff for adapting a little bit and making changes. I think Roman's play calling has been more diverse this year. I think he has been a little bit more, it's a lot less of just doing like straightforward, like run plays and pass plays. He's mixing stuff in. He's doing shovel passes. He's doing different types of runs. He's kind of, he's kind of, he's opening the vault a little bit. So shout out to Greg Roman. But yeah, it's the Lamar Jackson show right now, as far as his team is concerned. Wherever he goes, they go. And 5 touchdowns today on the road in a hostile New England environment against, not for nothing, the best coach of all time, who you got to think was probably going to have some decent game plan ready for him. But they blitzed a decent amount. He was pretty perfect against the blitz today, just looking at the numbers. Just an awesome day. So and he's carrying the run game here, as Garnett says too. Big part of that. I did want to give shout out, pat on the ass to these running backs. I mean, J.K. Dobbins, limited action, making his debut. I thought he looked pretty good. He had some burst. He brought some stuff to this run game that you just didn't have with the other running backs. So, as no matter what people say, I think running backs do to an extent matter here. So J.K. showed that his presence was going to be important, as did Justice Hill, man. This guy, I was talking a little bit about on Twitter. He's been their best running back, I think, when given the opportunity through these first 3 weeks. Definitely showed that today. Definitely deserving of getting more and more opportunities within this offense. I think he's showing out, and that's good for him, because his career was kind of on a weird trajectory there after being a promising 4th-round pick. So nice to see him break out a little bit. Kenyon Drake inactive. Mike Davis, I guess they wanted to have him as that change of pace power back type guy. So yeah, we had that going on with the running game, which was, it looked a lot better today than I think it did in the first 2 weeks. So that's an encouraging sign. I think Cole said that they had gone back to running the veer today. They did get a little bit of like Duvernay coming in the mix on motions and like jet sweeps and stuff like that. So yeah, shout out to Greg Roman and shout out to Lamar Jackson, because they are doing the damn thing right now, and it has this team at 2-1. So a massive victory up in New England. This team is 2-1 with Buffalo coming to town next week, which is a tough draw, obviously, but I think budgeting even for a loss there, like 2-2 is probably fine within this division right now. Cincinnati did not look too impressive today in their win over the Jets. And then obviously we saw Pittsburgh and Cleveland playing on Thursday night. That was just not too impressive either way for me. Getting into a little bit of the comments here. Mark says, I think if we fix up the edge rush, this defense will be disgusting, and I think the team can be better than 2019. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I just don't know how or when that's going to happen. I think Ojabo might help a little bit. I think Tyus Bowser certainly will, but it's just tough, I think, to rely on that happening. I think what they need to do is just focus on splash plays. And I think that's just a thing in general. It's hard to play stifling defense in the year 2022, just with how quick teams get the ball out and stuff like that. So I'll be curious to see if they kind of do, adopt, I was joking around in Twitter spaces, will they adopt a turnover chain? Will they incentivize turnovers in a way that will make it more of an emphasis point for them? Because I think that is going to be the key here. And you're not going to get 4 turnovers in a game most of the time like they did today. But if you can get 1 or 2 and just kind of win that turnover battle at the very least, that's going to help you be an effective defense, if not a very good one. Mark also says, I feel like watching this defense is like watching Trevon Diggs play every secondary position. So many yards and so many turnovers. Yeah, no, that's a good point. And people, rag on Trevon Diggs, and I get why, but he gets his hand on the ball, right? I mean, that's pretty big. And Jimmy Dean, the crazy thing is you feel like the O is struggling, and then you look up and we scored 30 plus again. Yeah, dude. It kind of feels like you remember 2020 when they were winning games, but I guess they were experimenting in the offense. They weren't playing Dobbins too much in the first half of his rookie year there. And it's like, oh, what are they doing? Why are they not blowing teams out? But then you look up and they scored somewhere between 24 and 34 points most weeks. And it's like, you know what? Yards don't win games, points do. So yeah, that's what it's all about. Michael Brown, Justice Hill had that burst. Yes, he did. Austin or Avuyile Madiba. I'm still concerned about the situational defensive calls. The calls before halftime that allowed the Pats field goal. Yeah, that's you got to be better than that. As if you're Mike McDonald for one thing, and if you're the players for the other, somebody's got to be smart enough to say hey, situationally, play the sidelines, funnel them to the middle of the field. It shouldn't be that difficult. I don't think so. It's something that I think is fixable, but it's multiple weeks in a row now of seeing it. Devontae Parker had a career game against us, and he hasn't been relevant for 2 years. I get it. And this is sort of a macro conversation that I think is going to need to be had surrounding this game, where people are going to say, hashtag many people are saying that, like I think some of the more doomsayers than the naysayers with this team right now are going to say, oh, it was Mac Jones. Like they gave up too many points. I'm not, I'm not sold on this at all. And I get it. But guys, like this is just the NFL, and like week to week, like so many games are close. Like you're not going to blow all these teams out, and you're certainly not going to do it on the road. And I certainly don't think you're going to do it on the road after a week like you just had, a very emotional week where you just had that massive kind of letdown against the Dolphins. It just smelled like a close game to me, and that's how it wound up being. And not for nothing, it's still the Patriots. They still have Belichick. They've got a decent little thing going on up there, if you hadn't noticed the last 20 years. So it's not, and also not for nothing, it was a 10-point win. So we can't discount that either. Let's see. I scrolled down too far. Sorry. Kogan says, I don't know why it took us so long to get Stevens off Parker after being burned constantly. I don't even think Stevens was getting burned like that. I think Parker was just making really good catches, and Stevens was kind of step for step with him a lot of time, but there's a little bit of a height advantage there, I think. And then, he was just making good catches and good throws by Mac too. So I get it. Like it's annoying, but they made adjustments. So you got to credit them on that. Turner W. Hill has some juice. Good to see JK still has that elite contact balance. JK looked good, man. I was kind of worried that we were hyping him up a little bit too much, but he did. He had burst. He had good balance. He kept plays alive too, which is important. Like it wasn't just like what we would see from Drake or Davis, where it's like you're just trying to gain every yard possible just by running straight. Like he was definitely being a little more creative with the ball in his hands out there. Mark says Duve's route running has developed a lot. His slant route catch had the best release I have seen from him. Yeah, looking very good. Lamar leads the league in touchdown passes. Yes, he does. Mark says, alternatively, PQ jumped his first route ever. Yeah, I mean, that was tough from our guy, PQ. That's brutal. JR, 9 interceptions last season from our defense and like 6 through 3 games so far. Yeah, dude, it's massive. Like I said, you're not stopping teams with the regularity that you were able to for almost any team, like you were able to like 10 years ago. Like it's just a different league. And, like I said, teams are getting the ball out quick. They're just not, it's harder to like play stifling, get stops every other drive defense. Like you got to make some splash plays, and they did that today. What's up, Garnett? They need a defense only meeting, says Jimmy. I think they did, dude. I think that's what that was. And that's why they, maybe a part of the reason why they played better today. Garnett says, everybody tell Marlon to stay off Twitter so he can get another interception. Yeah, no, he tweeted like, I took a break, happy to have me back today. And he had the pick and everything. Yeah, guys, let's just like leave Marlon alone. Like, let's let him tweet if he wants to tweet. Like, it's fine. Like he can tweet and like still be a good football player. It's okay. And that's, Marlon, he says and does some interesting things on social media, as I am one to point out sometimes, but let's just let him be a human being. Kogan, I love seeing Marcus Williams always being at the ball for PBUs and solid tackling. Yeah, another big breakup. Speaking of Stevens, I forget who had him beat. It might have been Parker again, but Marcus Williams came in a ton of range. He just exploded into the play and broke it up. He has been awesome. He's like definitely defensive MVP for me through these first 3 weeks. Love just naming MVPs after 3 games. Apparently that's my thing right now. Garnett, 10 touchdowns passing. Yep. And I think he has 12 total. Yeah. 2 rushing. So yeah, massive. He leads the league in touchdown passes. How bad and for how long before we try to replace Steve Saunders? I don't know, man. I don't know what the cause and effect there is. Like, it's weird. It's been a weird conversation to me. It's going to continue to be a weird one because I don't think he's going anywhere. But for me, it's like, at what point do you just say, yeah, like, let's just start over? Like, how could it really, pun intended, how could it hurt to get rid of Steve Saunders at this point? Like, maybe just clean the slate here, injury wise. And you don't have to do it mid-season. Maybe just do it after this year. But I just don't understand the commitment to the guy. Maybe just try something else because the injuries are insane right now. Devin H. It's super weird. What we wanted to improve in the offseason is still our weak point, secondary O-line. Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if I'd say like totally weak. Like Marlon being in the game was obviously huge. Like he was out for those Dolphin sequences where the those bombs occurred, and then he's in the game and he makes an interception, and they start to get more stops against Mac than they did against Tua. Like, having healthy players is big, and yeah, they improved along the O-line, but you were kind of counting on Ronnie Stanley coming back, and you're just still waiting on that. And I don't know, man. I mean, Morgan Moses has been good to me, and guys have filled in admirably for Stanley too. I don't think the O-line has been that bad. They've held up well in pass protection. The running game, it wasn't great before today, but they certainly looked better today. And I don't know. I think it's coming around. I definitely think that what we talked about a little bit of not taking the preseason seriously at all and using September as kind of your tune-up month, I think we're seeing that happen in real time. I think they're adjusting things on the fly, and they're seeing what works, and they're doing what they need to do to try and win these games, but also kind of experiment a little bit. So yeah, it's just kind of the ebbs and flows of a season. And I think they're still kind of tuning things up a little bit as they get guys back from injuries. Mark letting up yards and points, but getting Lamar good field position with turnovers isn't crazy, to be honest. Yeah, I agree, man. It's 2022. You're going to have to win some shootouts, and I get it. It's Mac Jones. It's not Patrick Mahomes, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. Jimmy says, I think we were still figuring out the right roles for the young DBs. I like the options we have to work with. Yeah, I think they are experimenting a little bit. You got Armour Davis was playing a little bit today. I think he got kind of a mix up on I think it was either a Parker or a Kendrick Bourne long catch. It might have been the first one of the game. But yeah, they're getting out there and they're getting their feet wet and they're learning a little bit. There's pedigree there. And yeah, it's interesting to watch it play out. And then Jimmy says, not sure the injuries were due to strength and conditioning. Yeah, I just don't know at this point, man. Like, I don't know how you prevent injuries, or you at least attempt to prevent injuries any more than they have been. Like, they completely revamped a lot of the way that they approach this stuff. They've got a whole new health and nutrition approach, and they really have made the effort, short of firing Saunders, and it's still not totally working out. Thankfully, nothing catastrophic yet. Knock on wood. But yeah, it's just, for some reason, this team is just kind of cursed right now. They got Spenny keeps making the Ted Lasso references. You burn sage or do whatever. Yeah, unfortunately, it's just not working out quite yet, but I don't know. Maybe Saunders is gone after this year, but honestly, I'm just tired of talking about it. Hopefully we don't have to talk about it too much any longer. But yeah, speaking of not talking too much any longer, I have gone for almost 40 minutes here, just running it solo by myself. Wanted to wait around for my guy Spen, but I am just super tired here. He and I were actually out last night ripping it up a little bit, so I am tired ahead of this work week, and I need to hit the hay. So appreciate you guys for tuning in and listening to me ramble for those 40-odd minutes or so. We will be back with more regularly scheduled programming. We might have some pretty awesome guests this week, too. We do have one coming up on Wednesday, actually, a really cool chat with Glenn Clark, actually, that goes for over an hour. That was recorded last week, so it's not going to be super related to anything that happened yesterday. But yeah, awesome chat there with Glenn. We have a booking scheduled for tomorrow with a pretty big name, which hopefully that's going to go through, but I will not say anything until then. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at Jake Luke. That's LOUQUE. You can follow the show at Podcast Beatdown. You can follow Spencer at Ravens 4 Dummies. That's the number 4. Will my Mac stop with the gosh darn notifications? You can follow Spencer at Ravens 4 Dummies. That's the number 4. It's funny because he's actually texting a group chat right now. So there's Spenny for the show this week, if you wanted him. Thank you guys for listening. Awesome win today. Hopefully going to be another one coming up against this Bills team that is going to be pissed off after dropping one of the Dolphins, but we will certainly see about that, won't we? You guys are the best. We appreciate you very much and your patronage, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
Where is the wise man? Where is the scholar? Where is the philosopher of this age? Get down! Baltimore!
What are they getting? Everything out of me. They gonna get a Super Bowl out of me.